श्रोत्रमथो बलमेन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदम् माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मेस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। May all my limbs attain strength. May the body, mind, sensory and motor organs, and my intellect and life force, all these instruments become perfected. All is verily the one without second, absolute, infinite Brahman. May I never deny this truth. May this truth never reject me either. May all the virtues necessary to experience this truth in life be with me. Peace, peace, peace. Let us feel, friends, that we are like salt doll surrounded by infinite ocean of shining consciousness and supreme bliss. We are immersed in this ocean and are getting dissolved in it. I is dissolved completely. Inside and outside, the same non-dual, uniform, homogeneous illumination. All my limitations have disappeared. limitation is gone. All doubts are dissolved. I am this ocean, infinite, absolute of bliss. Om, peace, peace, peace. Okay, we got it. All these instruments also have their own moods, so they need to be restarted. I heard a story that a man was standing with his car and was helplessly looking, that it is that his car that was, that window was not opening and the car was not starting. The car was not starting. And one man came and told, I know the trick. You just pull down the window and pull it up again. And that started. So he asked, how do you know? He said, I work with Microsoft Windows, So that is when you put it down and start it again, when you restart, the things begin. Yay, good. No? Ha, ha, ha.
That's what was happening.
Good. Arre. Oh, okay. So this is a great work by Swami Vivekananda. These lessons on Jnana Yoga, about 16 lectures which have been compiled here. 10 of these were given in London and 6 in New York, and they are philosophically very rich, and especially the chapter that we are studying now, the Absolute and Manifestation. This chapter is a great gift to English language to present these ideas, these Vedanta ideas about these questions as to how this universe came into existence and why God does things like this, and why do we suffer. All these questions which are very fundamental to human mind are discussed here in both as at a thought level and experiential level. This is a tremendous work really, and as we study it, we of course need more patience than usual. When we are studying a philosophical work, we cannot just breeze past like a storybook, So one needs to practice more patience in seeing these things. Let us begin as usual with our regular prayers. So it again lost from my machine here. Okay. So I don't have to worry about the phone. Okay. And this clicker will work? That also will not work. Okay. Uh-huh. So I have no controls today, it is except on my speech. So let us begin with the prayers. Om Brahma me tumam madhume tumam Brahmameva madhume tumam Brahmamedhaya madhumedhaya Brahmameva madhumedhaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May Brahman, the Absolute, be realized by us. May the bliss Absolute be realized by us. May Brahman, which is also the bliss Absolute, be realized by us. Next. May we realize Brahman by purification of our understanding. May we realize the bliss Absolute by purification of our understanding. May we realize Brahman, which is also the bliss Absolute, by purification of our understanding. Om, peace, peace, peace. So the way forward is purification of our understanding. And purification of our understanding is what is done in and through meditations. And meditation, one way of looking at meditation is that to clear our understanding, to get rid of the clutter that makes for all the conflicts and doubts. So when that is cleared, when our understanding is purified, the truth is revealed. This was the question that we were discussing last time, and we had discussed a lot about it, but something more still remains to be discussed, that it is, oh again this is gone? Yeah, please continue, don't interrupt anymore, please. Yeah. Please don't interrupt anything now. It is already, the lecture is going on, I am, why further interruption, I don't know. So is this question, because knowing is the process of limiting. We limit things by our understanding or our mind, and thus we say that it is known. It gets captured in our neural network, and thus we call that thing to be known. And in that sense, if we know God as an object, then that God also will be limited. And thus, a limited or finite God is really no God. So therefore, in that sense, God cannot be known. But is then God unknown? Please change the slide. It is, we have, our mind has these categories, that something, if it is not known, then it is unknown, and that is how our digital understanding works. That is called the bits, that it is, information is like that, yes or no. So is it known or is it unknown? In cross-examination or in witness testings, the lawyers also ask such questions. Tell me in one word, yes or no, whether you were at this spot at this time, yes, no. So, because if yes, it is not no. If it is no, then it is not yes. So, God, known or unknown? It is very difficult to classify God. He is not known, but then is not unknown either, because everything that we know is in and through God. First we know, God is pervading everything, and thus whatever we know is through God. First we know God, and then through God we know everything else. It is like seeing a movie. We see the screen, and then on the screen we see all other pictures, all other objects. So the screen is visible, but not like an object in the movie. But is it invisible? No, it is not invisible either, because all that you are seeing all the time is nothing but screen. So, therefore, it is not unknown either. Please change. So, these categories of known and unknown are both illumined by this divine presence, which is our true self. Our true self illuminates known and unknown, but the self is beyond any such categorization. Every categorization is a limitation. Like one gentleman was asking me this question just this morning, that if the God is with form, then that God is limited. So God has to be without form. But if you say God cannot be with form, then that also puts a limitation on God. on the powers of God, that you can't be with form. So that also is not possible. With form is a category, without form is another category. God transcends this categorization. That is why the mystics have used this a transcendental language to express these ideas, like the Zen koans, or they clapping with one hand, how to clap with one hand and such things. What does it mean? Or the Tao, that like Taoists say, the Tao that is known is not Tao. It is like that Brahman or the Self is known as well as unknown, and is neither confined in neither of these categories. So we have to, now here comes this idea that we are going to discuss today, that we have to learn to transcend the categorization. It is, please change the slide. So it is more than known, as we saw last time, that it is, he is the self, thou art that, O Shvetaketu. This is a famous sentence from Chandogya Upanishad. You are that. And when we go to understand this deeper and deeper, you are that divine truth or the absolute principle, and then you start wondering, in the beginning it is a conflict, that how this statement made by the sage, that you are that, how can that ever be true? Because I am a limited being, I have very limited existence, I am born and just live for a few moments and pass on. God is ever present, how can I be God? I am powerless, I can't do anything, it is the nature and that keeps on, kicking me like a soccer ball, and I go wherever nature kicks me. And God is all powerful, so how can I be that? And thus a thinking process is set on, that when that sage has said it, the sage certainly knows more. That the sage knows, cannot be telling something that is false. So let me think it over as to who am I. And then when we start in that direction, that am I body? You think over it, am I body? And the conclusion comes, no, I am not body. And thus you immediately, when this conclusion comes, that I am not body, what do you see? That I had no birth, no death. It is the body that is born and the body that has died. That's it. The idea that I am body is a wrong idea. It is a false statement to say that I am body. It is a big lie that we have been telling ourselves, that I am this body. It is an erroneous experience. Lie in, not in the sense that it is you are consciously lying, but it is not a true statement. It is based on an erroneous experience of our being confined in the body. Just as if you are not, say, coming out of the car any time, or just identifying yourself with the car that you are in, then, well, you then were born, the year that car was manufactured, that is the year of your birth, and when it is junk, that is the year of your death. So date of birth and date of death is that of the car. But if I am the car, then that is what my fate is. Similarly, if I am body, then body born, body dying, and that becomes my date of birth and my date of death. It is, but if I understand, if I see, if I get convinced that I am not body, what a big transformation. When that understanding is deeply rooted in our awareness, I am not body, see, it just unfolds a completely different understanding about ourselves and about the universe. What we understand as universe, what we experience as universe is inseparably connected with our awareness of who am I. Both go hand in hand. It is I who perceive this universe, and therefore according to this perception of I, the universe also changes. And that is a wonderful idea given by Swami Vivekananda here, and we see that also echoed by philosophers like Ouspensky, especially after the Einstein's this discovery that the time is the fourth dimension that we are in. We are not in a three-dimensional world. We are in four-dimensional universe. But that the problem is we perceive, our brain perceives only three dimensions and moving, those three dimensions moving in a stream of time. And thus we get this very confusing perceptions about space-time causation. It is this getting caught in that is the problem. And when we start analyzing as to who am I, when we see that we are not body, our understanding of space-time also shifts. It is caught in this physicality, we have one sense of time and space. It is like if we are on the earth, we have one sense of space. If we go to moon, because of the size of the moon and that our universe will be much smaller. The horizons will be smaller because moon's size is small. So here we have a big horizon, big when comparatively. That is what we consider the horizon. When we go to moon, it will get shrunk. So it is our perception becomes where we are. So rooted in the awareness that I am this body, our understanding of time also is correspondingly changed. It is, or it's correspondingly there with the sense of I am body. Now get rid of this sense of I am body, and the universe, the time and space undergo change. Go further. Am I the mind? The analysis will reveal the answer, inescapable conclusion that you are not mind. Mind is an instrument that you are using. This conclusion is inescapable. Howsoever we identify ourselves with body and mind, we can see just a little analysis can bring us to this conclusion that I am not the mind either, nor body. So, then am I finite? Then I become infinite. I become really all. All the separations are caused by body and mind. Get rid of them. And then I become divine. There is no difference now between I and God in this state. So, it is like waking from the dream. In the dream, I saw that here I am in a forest, there are all these trees, and from nowhere a big bear came and started chasing me, and I started running, and then I fell down while running away, and wow, gone, now the bear is going to kill me, and I wake up on my bed. All the I that was running, the forest, the bear, and all the events that were going on, who was all that? That was all I. There was no separate entity shipped to any of that. So when we wake up from this dream, that I, this, that, and this is my friend, this is my enemy, and this is how I was lucky, this is how I was unlucky. So this is where I got lucked out, this is where I got lucked in. Is there a word like that? Only you get lucked out, you never get lucked in, I suppose. So it is. So all this merges into this one without second existence. So this is the goal, because otherwise we have no way to be happy in this world. Here it is a mixture always of happiness and unhappiness. And I used to think, it doesn't matter, it is a mixture, I will get at least some happiness. And no, actually one Swami very nicely explained it to me, that look, it is not that you will get some happiness and some unhappiness. Some objects are nice to be associated with and they will yield happiness to us, others are terrible. But that is so relative, means before you get the object, you feel the sense of happiness, and once you get it, it becomes misery. Like I was telling in the last gospel class, that we have that Midas touch, because of which before we touch, they are fine, very good. As soon as we touch it, in the Midas story it was getting turned into gold, but here it doesn't get changed into gold but misery. It is whatever I see, I feel it is so wonderful happiness, I go there, and then, well, my touch makes it misery. So please change the slide. So, thus we see that we are caught in time, space and causation. One of our devotees was telling me that why it is so much time, space, causation, it is all boring. So many days we have been hearing about this time, space, causation. I request that devotee to have a little more patience. We have to deal with one more important idea about time, space and causation. It is there to make inquiry. The statement that everything happens in time, space and causation give an idea that time, space, causation, then they must be real. It is like everything is happening on the stage. So, the players on the stage, they come and go, but the stage remains, so the stage must be real. So, this time, space, causation seem to be like the stage on which all these things are happening. So, while those things, they change, they may not be real, yet the stage, time, space, causation must be real. Are they real? And this is a great piece of discussion here by Swami Vivekananda, very powerful and profoundly analytical discussion that will follow here. Please patiently try to follow. It is the one peculiar attribute we find with time, space and causation is that they cannot exist separate from other things. Try to think of space without color or limits or any connection with the things around. Just abstract space. You cannot. Space is not disconnected from our perception of things. This is something that really an outcome even in the world of science after Einstein's theory of relativity, that time and space are not given absolutes. They are generated by the things that we perceive. Time is, we shall see, but what he mentions about space here, try to think of this space without limits, without any object around. It is impossible. Where all our idea of space is between two objects. Even the sky, okay, that sky it is an object. The earth and the sky, the space in between, or the spacecraft we say beyond the gravitational realm of earth. It is again between the objects that we perceive the space. Without object, there is no perception of space. Let us remember this, that it is the one peculiar attribute we find in time, space and causation is that they cannot exist separate from these things. Try to think of space without color or limits or any connection with the things around, just abstract space. You cannot. You have to think of it as the space between two limits or between three objects. It has to be connected with some objects to have any existence. So, it is not just the objects are in space, it is the space that it is the objects that generate the sense of space. It is not that it is the object is in the space. Immediately we get an idea that there is a box in which an apple is kept. So, there is the given box called space and there is the apple kept in that space. So, we have a space and we are all kept in it. Everything that we see, right from the huge galaxies to the minutest atom, everything is kept in a big huge box that is called space. But that is not correct. that understanding needs to be purified. It is these objects themselves, they give a notion of space. The notion of space has no existence apart from the objects. Take out the objects and there is no idea of space. It is the idea of space will just vanish away. We had some nice lectures here by Swami Atmajnanananda of Washington DC, and he was presenting a modern language synopsis of Shankaracharya's discussion on these points of space and the object that it is. So he said the donut hole is a space. You say there is a donut and in between there is a space. Now isn't it the donut that makes for the donut hole? Can you make a donut hole by itself? You have to have a donut to make a donut hole. It is not just without donut there is no donut hole. So the space in the universe, it is the objects that generate the sense of space, like the donut generates the sense of donut hole. In Shankara's commentary, it is a pot, the space in the pot. It is the space in the pot and space outside this pot. What is it? The space inside and the space outside. It is not the difference in the space as such, but it is the walls that generate that difference. This is the wall of the pot, inside and outside. What happens when the pot breaks? And what happens to the space inside the pot? Well, so there is nothing like the space inside the pot and outside the pot. That pot has generated that sense. So similarly, you see the sense of space is generated by the objects that confine it or surround it. Similarly, so with time, you cannot have any idea of abstract time, but you have to take events. Just as space between two objects, time between two events. That is how the basic concept of time is. Between the two events, we see a distinction. That is how the differentiation in our perception are two different ways of seeing. So, this gives rise to these two ideas. When we look at the objects, they are separated. Really, it is all one without second. As ocean, there is no separation, but you see the waves and one is separate from another. So, there is this sense of space. When we see two, the very fact that we are able to see two means there is space between them. And then two events, this happened and then that happened. We have the perception of separate events, and then how we see that separate events, because there is the separation of time. Otherwise it is just one event. This separation of events is what causes this sense of time. We perceive different things. If there is nothing happening, there is no sense of time. Just imagine, and that is how Einstein once expressed the idea to a non-technical audience, that what is the change. Actually, Bertrand Russell explained Einstein's idea in these words. Look, before that, science used to think that time and space are, although abstract, they are given. They are absolute. I mean, you cannot change the time and space. It is like this space is so many qubits, it is so many qubits. That is, this is the time 3 hours, it is just 3 hours. It is, and it is considered to be absolute, independent of events. But what, and thus we had the perception, even if we take away all the objects, if all the names and forms are taken out, all objects are taken out, then only time and space will remain. Like everybody from the stage has gone, still the stage will remain. No play is going on, but stage will remain. That is how our idea was before Einstein stepped in. And Einstein's theory of relativity met so much resistance because we are so much rooted in this understanding of time and space, that time and space are given absolutes in which the objects move. You can calculate the speeds and the positions of the objects in space and in time. So, they are given absolutes. But Einstein showed that there is nothing like space or nothing like time, independent of the objects and events. It is the objects and the events, they give the idea of space and time. Please change the slide. Time depends on two events. Just as space has to be related to outside objects, so also time. And the idea of causation is inseparable from both these. So, and this is the peculiar thing about them, that they have no independent existence. They have not even the existence which the chair or the wall has. Even the objects have a little higher level of existence than time and space. Because time and space, they are like the shadows of the objects. They are hovering around. Time, space and causations, they hover around the objects like their shadows. And so you can understand, Naomi, is it not? That is why you get the idea of space and time. It is so independent of objects, there is no space, no time, and thus the time-space causation not only do not have any existence of their own, and this is a tremendous statement that Swami Vivekananda makes here, that time-space causation do not even have as much existence as the objects and events have. Objects and events give a secondary sense of this time. That is how in our day-to-day life too, what is an epiphenomena, what is a secondary thing that assumes the primary importance. What is secondary? It is the dog is there and then that dog wags the tail. But then if we get identified with the tail, and then we will start seeing how the tail wags the dog. Let us find out. So that is how it is. The computers were generated by studying how the human beings function, to replicate the human work mechanically, to free human beings from this laborious task. You have to add so many 5,000 plus sums. So let machine do it. Let us, because it is a mechanical thing. So we find out the machines to do, and then let the machines, our thinking is also more or less or really mechanical. So let machines do the thinking for us. Thinking is a mechanical process. So let machines do that thinking. So thus the computers were devised to replicate the human actions, human thinking, and so forth. The robots, they simulate the human behaviors. It is you see in some, I saw in some that big that bridge in St. Louis, and there is a gate that in the bridge between east and west of America. So in that there is a nice museum, and so as you enter there, there is somebody who welcomes you. And I was returning the welcome, but then I saw it is a robot that welcomes you. So it is because it is a tedious job to keep a human being there all the time, and then always bend down and give a bow. So it is. So they kept a robot there. Now, so many times I have found it easy to cite the example of computer to understand the human behavior and human thinking, how the human mind works. Now I take the help of people's understanding of computer to explain the human working of human mind. So it is reverse now. The human mind generated computer. Now to understand human mind, we take help of the computer. So it is like that the time-space causations were generated by the objects and events around, our perception of objects and perception of events. And now they have taken this supremacy that we control everything. It is like the tail wagging the dog, and the shadows determining the objects. It is the objects which generate the shadows, but then shadows take the prominence, and then the objects are to be governed by the shadows. So, therefore, Swami Vivekananda points this out, that these time-space causation do not have even as much existence as the objects have. Thus, we see first that the combination of time, space and causation has neither existence nor non-existence. Secondly, it sometimes vanishes. To give an illustration, there is a wave on the ocean. The wave is the same as the ocean certainly, and yet we know it is a wave and as such different from the ocean. What makes this difference? The name and the form. That is the idea in the mind and the form. Now, can we think of a wave form as something separate from the ocean? Certainly not. It is always associated with the ocean idea. So, everything that we see is in that ocean of existence, in God basically, or if we prefer the self, that it is in that we move, in that we are, and our whole existence is in that. So, it is the whole of this universe, therefore, is as it were a peculiar form. The absolute is that ocean, while you and I and suns and stars and everything else are various waves of that ocean. And what makes the wave different? Only the form, and that form is time, space, causation, all entirely dependent on wave. As soon as the wave goes, they vanish. As soon as the individual gives up this Maya, it vanishes for that individual, and that person becomes free. The whole struggle is to get rid of this clinging on to time, space, causation. Please change the next. So, this is the whole struggle. We want to be free. All this discussion has a very important practical bearing. We all want to be free. Can anybody dispute that? And so we find out what are the bondages that is restricting our freedom. Who restricts my freedom? And that is our clinging to time, space and causation. That is Maya. We cling to it, and that prevents us from realizing this self. As that story Sri Ramakrishna used to narrate, that a mendicant went to a king, and then the king, seated in his big parlor, asked the saint, "Show me the way to get liberation, get freedom." And then the sage just embraced the one pillar in the parlor, embraced it hard, and said, "Oh, please release me from this pillar, please liberate me, this pillar is binding me." And then everybody laughed and said, "Well, it is you who have held it, just give up your hold." So it is we who have clutched with such passion to this universe of time, space and causation, and thus feeling this terrible bondage. And this is the effort that we have to make. And it is not that it is just 0 or 1. We have to work on it. This is what is it is yoga. Yoga means the practical application and practice. We have to keep on practicing at it, and thus that is how this is the whole idea of evolution according to Vedanta. In Vedanta, this is how we evolve, that it is, what is the whole struggle is to get rid of this clinging on to time, space, causation, which are always obstacles in our way. And Darwin brought up that very beautifully, the whole theory of evolution of species. But Darwin did not give the purpose of this evolution, the end of this evolution, where will it ultimately end, where it will ultimately take us to. The Vedanta gives that purpose. Darwin gave the purpose on a very material plane, and which always has doubts about it. That is the struggle for existence. We want to exist, every species, when the circumstances were obstructing it, wanted to evolve more and more so that they can exist. So therefore the species changed so that they can survive in the changing circumstances. And then the selection, that natural selection was another principle, so that our existence is continued through progeny. And so to get the proper selection of the mate, to get the progeny continue, because the parents seem to continue their life. This is a funny idea that we somehow know that I am going to die, but then I can live through the progeny. So the parents, even the trees, all the animals, they thus survive to spread their species through this. So Darwin gave these two ideas, but Vedanta brings a very different, more the fundamental idea behind evolution, which incorporate these two too, and that is to become free, to experience that we are infinite, and that is to throw away this bondage of time, space and causation. So we shall that is next slide, but I think we will stop here, the time is over. We shall continue with this idea of discussion of evolution that Swami Vivekananda presents here, that we studied enough of time, space and causation. So now we will move on the same chapter, that how to get over it, how to go beyond it. This is an evolutionary process. So as we evolve, we will see how the bondage of time and space and causation withers away. So any questions, friends? Yes, Charles?
All right, you said that I'm not the body. In that case, an avatar is not the body either, and a body is a form. So why do we say God is with form if we're not the body?
Well, it is told to those who have body, so they can see only the form, so they are told that God is with form as well. It is not that God is not formless. God is formless and God is with form too. Your first question, are the avatars bodies? To the extent that we are bodies, they also are bodies. But the big difference is they are conscious of their non-corporeal existence that we are not. We cannot go out of the body because for us the body is like prison. They are visitors to the prison, What is the difference between a visitor to the prison and a prisoner? Naomi, what is the difference? One can be, one can leave, it is that person's freedom to come to prison and go out of the prison. But a prisoner, say, sentenced 10 years, and then says, no, I now want to go out. Hey, no, 10 years. So, we are sentenced in this prison of body for life and lives. It is. So, we cannot really get release from it. We get some parole release when we sleep. We are dissociated from it, but there also we are tied to the prison. We cannot go far away. And we come back, we have to come back, and even when we are away, like those criminals who had the history of running away absconding. So these days they put some information chip into them, so they can be traced by that. Wherever they go, they will be sending the signals. So even though in sleep we go away from body, we are sending, we are really connected with it. The signals are being sent all the time, and therefore we have to return to the body awareness. So that is, you are right, that we have no freedom. And the avatars, Charlie, they are using the body. They are not tied to the body as such. They use the body. Yes, please.
We cannot think of abstract space or time. It may be due to limitation of our mind as opposed to intrinsic nature of time and space.
Yes, it's a good question. Is that it is the very idea that the space, not just because of the limitation of our mind, it is connected inseparably to objects. And so it is, if the objects are real, then only time and space are real. If the objects are not real, then the time space also are not real. So time space causation are inextricably related to this. And so our limitation of mind is there, which makes us see time space, but that also makes us see the object. So what is beyond the limitation of mind is neither the objects nor the space and time. Yes?
We are discussing that time and space only in relation to the objects, but if you look at the Vedas and Vedic cosmology, there the origin of the universe, if you see that first, and then in Rig Veda that and then first there was nothingness, and then this Akasha came, and then Prana came, and then the elements came, like that. So there was a point where there were no objects happening.
The objects, it came with the ego first. Tasmad va etasmad atmana akashas sambhutah. It is that it is the idea of I that gives rise to it along with the objects. It is not that in space and time the objects have been put, no. It is, you have to have another idea about time and space, that it is akin to the general theory of relativity, that all objects are really the curvatures in the space-time continuum. There is no object. Again, the principle is same, that there is no object separate from time and space conundrum as such,
So by objects you mean ego, because from that Akasha the objects evolve. That's how
yes. So the
ego.
Yes. So and the ego is illusory. It is a part of this Maya. So, and there thus this space, time, and therefore they really do not have existence beyond the mental process. The mental process generates this sense, like our brain puts the events in an order. And thus, as the order is, we see the sense of time. The events are, say, if it is scattered, that is how our limitation of our brain is, it can function only in a line. That suppose you have now chairs put like this. So which is first, which is second, it is, unless you make them put in a line, You cannot say. So you put them, you arrange a linear order. Okay, we will count like this, then like this. So then you can count which is number 1, which is number 2. So the events also we arrange in a linear way, discretely. Suppose these all chairs, they have no discreteness, they are just one big chair. Then just imagine, it's not like that, but imagine that it is one big chair. Like you have, the fuse, there are 4 or 5 people sitting in one line. So suppose this is all one single chair. There is no numbering of the chairs. Now, when you have multiple, you arrange them. So the events that we see, our brain, it doesn't have the capability to perceive it as a single whole. And we don't like to think that our brain is not capable enough. But it has its limitations, it has capabilities, it has its limitations. It cannot see the picture as a whole in such things. When you see as one whole, no time. When you see events, the very perception of events, please mind the words, very perception of events has this distinction, A and B. So A happened first, B happened next, time. So there is no sense of time without this arranging the events in a line. That is how the sense of time is basically generated by the brain. So also that of space, because of the modern understanding of neurology, one can see the time and space. They are the programs loaded on the brain. So that is, these are the programs really, not that things are in time and space, but time and space are the programs on the brain. So that is why they don't have any existence beyond our mind. And so we have to see it only through the limitation of mind. It is like that. Yes, Pritish? Yes. Yes, this is a very peculiar phenomena, and actually we all have that capability if we really go deep into that state of meditation. What has happened to Swami Vivekananda, and this has been told to him by Sri Ramakrishna, that everything that is going to happen in his life has been shown to him in the beginning as a cinema, that this is what is going to happen. So it is all like photography of his life has been shown to him, that this is all how these things are going to be unfolding. And this is true of everyone, but we do not have that level of concentration, and that it is all put there. It is just going to unfold, like where Prithvish Basu will be going, how long will he be working in America, what people he will be coming in contact with, and all that has been all in the movie already decided, painted. But since we do not see it, For us it is different. Swami Vivekananda has mentioned that, and he mentions that it seems that everything that is happening in life has already been shown to me before it happened. Yes. So let us conclude with the closing prayers. Next Friday and another 3 Fridays we will not have this Jnana Yoga class. Next Friday it will be a vacation due to the Diwali and such programs around, but after that 2 more Fridays will have different programs. One Friday it will be a lecture by Swami Brahmarupananda coming from Washington DC Center. He will speak on that Friday. I think it is 5th, 4th, Friday the 4th of November. Swami Brahmarupananda will speak, and then Friday the 11th, Prithvish Basu will speak. So please come for these Friday programs. Everything will be live streamed as well. And yes, next Friday there will be no program, and therefore obviously no live streaming either. So it is, live streaming is like the time space causation, unless there is the event there is no live streaming of it. So unless there is an object there is no time space. So there will be next Friday will be a vacation, and so our members sometimes say that you never give vacations, always class and class and class. So some vacation will be good. So there will be a vacation on Friday, and then the Tuesday that will be following again, that is the 1st. Vacation. So there will be some a couple of days of vacation now. So let us see how best use one can put it to. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna